Crisis comes in many forms: violence against women, mental health crisis, financial crisis, every day in our community. It might affect the person next to you. It could be the person you least expect.
This is 9 News with Davina Smith.
Good morning. We begin in Melbourne with a family tragedy that's brought senior police officers to tears.
For more than 20 years, I've been a journalist and a news presenter, and I've always been very, very sensitive and probably emotional as well. And I thought I always used that towards a strength, being a reporter in particular, that I could have a sensitivity and not be disconnected from people when they were telling me their stories. I did 6 years in regional television where tragically the bread and butter of news bulletins there are tragic accidents on highways. And there was a lot of trauma in those early years of my career that you never really processed, because the next day you were onto another story, but you always carried the story from the day before with you. I moved to Sydney in 2009 to join Nine as a producer, working 15, 16-hour days to try and prove myself and get runs on the board. In 2014 I was diagnosed with anxiety, OCD and PTSD, because it had been years of all that trauma and the adrenaline and the burnout building up into this awful beast of what was anxiety. I was about 6 or 8 weeks pregnant at the time, and my husband and I had a massive argument, and it was the breaking point. I ran out the door with my keys, and the intention was to drive off the road and get rid of myself, because I thought that was the only way to fix everything in our lives.
I'm married to my childhood sweetheart. I have 2 children. We live on the Northern Beaches. I'm a senior leader at a large software company. That day was like any other ordinary day. I was living at home, getting ready for my wedding, which was 6 months later. My brother was talking about next week, next month, next year. He was talking about the party he was going to next week. It just seemed like any ordinary day. And then it wasn't.
So, Steph, can you tell me a little bit about Adam?
Adam was the youngest of 3 children. He was 6 years younger than me. He was very intelligent, extremely sporty. He was very caring, but he was also funny. And I actually have a photo here of my 21st. And right here are vouchers for a weight loss program. So he's trying to indicate to me that I might want to go on a weight loss program, but he was funny and kind and caring, intelligent, and very much missed.
Now, I know your family have been through a horrendous time.
I think what was really hard for us is it came completely out of the blue. We had no warning signs. We try and look back to think, what did we miss? But he was a normal teenage boy. He had not confided in anyone that he was going through any sort of struggles. You can't blame yourself. It's very hard to think, why couldn't they come to me? I mean, for me, I was the last family member to see my brother alive, and he knew I was the one that was going to find him. And why couldn't he talk to me? I still think of that.
Yeah.
But he was obviously going through so much pain.
Every day in Australia, 180 people will attempt suicide. 9 people will die. People from all walks of life, causing a devastating impact on families, friends, and whole communities. Like Adam, often there is no warning, but there is hope. In May this year, Lifeline experienced its busiest day on record, on 13/11/14 and online via text and chat. I saw an ad in the Sydney Morning Herald for Lifeline looking for volunteers. My youngest brother had suicided a few years before that. It resonated with me. It's a privilege being contacted by somebody who feels that Lifeline might be able to help them. All it takes really is for somebody to dial the number, It's there for them to talk to. They feel comfortable in being able to confide in that person that they're talking to about their crisis.
Since Adam's died, you've had an association with Lifeline. When did you first become aware of Lifeline?
I used to see Lifeline's details come up on news reports or in particular articles and thought, I wish that he knew that he could go to someone even if it was anonymous, just someone to help him with what he was going through in his mind. Perhaps he didn't know that he could come to us when he was struggling and he could have gone to someone else like Lifeline, that there is support available and that you're not alone.
It's courageous to speak about mental health when you've been through the loss of your brother, but we thank you for what you're doing to help others who are struggling.
As I was driving, it was almost like a wake-up call. I didn't want to do what everything in my head was telling me to do, which was to take my own life. I have this baby that needs me, and it doesn't stand a chance if I'm not here. So I pulled over on the side of the road. I'll call Lifeline. And I knew the number off by heart because I read it out loud on the news at least once a week for the last 10 years. The woman who answered the phone was calm. She wasn't scared by my emotion and my panic. I remember her asking me, where do I feel safest? And at the time, I always felt safest in bed with a nice clean pair of pyjamas. And so she said, wouldn't that be nice right now?
Take me home.
If I did what I'd planned to do that night, I would never have had my little girl. And her name is Hope.
Happy birthday, dear Hopey. Happy birthday.
Because she is all of my hope. And she is the most happiest, beautiful little girl. So that's what I would say to anyone at that point in their life. There can be a whole new chapter and a whole new story from that moment on. And you are not alone.
In the next 12 months, over 1 million people will reach out to Lifeline. But not all calls will be answered, and we need your help to change this. Our vision is for an Australia free of suicide, where no families or communities will experience what Adam's family did. We are determined to achieve this. You can help us to help others. You can save lives.